Augusta Young and his sister, Alexa, who had been barely 1 year older than he, had grown up with just one rule: don't get caught. Some kids grew up with parents who cared and paid attention. Others had parents who handed down so many rules it was impossible to keep them straight. All August and his sister had learned from their parents was to steer clear of blame. Their last name gave them a free pass. Money smoothed out situations. Use both to get out of trouble. That was how the rule worked. Until it didn't. Almost 3 years earlier, back in New York, Alexa had broken the rule, resulting in expulsion, addiction, and a serious breakdown. So their mother and father had yanked August and Alexa out of private school and rehab, respectively, and moved to Callabrese, California, a town so tiny that it shared a country club with 3 other agricultural pit stops, also stinking of manure. Although they opened a fine dining restaurant called De Young's, they hired staff to run it, just as they hired staff to raise their children while they spent 90% of their time back in New York. Alexa tried so hard, but she got caught in the worst way possible. She had died exactly 1 year ago today, and their parents managed to disapprove even of that. August couldn't remember if they had cried at her funeral. He stood in front of her crypt, wondering if it would be for the last time. Set on a grassy hill overlooking the San Francisco Bay, the De Young tomb looked like a little marble Roman villa, an 8-foot-tall rectangle topped with an angled, tiled roof. 4 fluted columns anchored the corners, and a sad marble angel drooped on top of each one. The door was black as death, and the brass fittings gleamed like halos. The little villa had cost the equivalent of a year's tuition at Harvard, which Alexa had been expected to attend. But the crypt was a bargain, really, because there was room for a dozen more dead De Youngs inside it. They hadn't buried Alexa in New York or Callabrese. San Francisco was a good address as cemeteries went, and it helped them keep the whole mess quiet. August was fiercely glad that Lex was finally out of Callabrese, which was nothing but grapevines and torment. Their parents had dumped them in a hellhole. That horrible, hopeless town had killed his sister, and it had been the people she knew, her friends. They had betrayed her. He remembered Alexa from the good days, when her light blonde hair had glittered and her skin had not been sallow, and whenever you looked at her she was smiling in a way that made you smile. Tiny and mischievous, like a little mouse. That was the Alexa he missed. But the one he mourned had been nothing like that. Dull eyes, hair of straw, scary thin. No mischief. The trap had sprung on the little mouse. Once the tomb had been completed about a month after her murder, August had started driving to San Francisco every Saturday morning in his new Porsche. His parents had bought him the car in the hopes of cheering him up. That was their answer to everything. More possessions, more stuff. It took about an hour to get there. He would buy a bouquet of miniature roses wrapped in tissue paper at Fisherman's Wharf. He and Alexa used to ditch school and cruise the wharf, eating cracked crab on sourdough bread and guzzling Anchor Steam beer even though they were underage. They'd feed the seagulls and talk about moving to San Francisco once they could leave without being reported as runaways. Lex begged August to just blow it all off and bail out of Callabrese. Not to wait any longer. She couldn't bear it. She said their parents would never report them because of all the hassle it would cause. He wished to God he'd listened to her. They used to get their pictures taken in the photo booth and go to the wax museum and send each other on little scavenger hunts all over San Francisco. He didn't know how many times she had made him find the Yoda statue in the Presidio or pick up something with a sea lion on it. He still had her sea lion collection. That was how the scavenger hunt tradition had been born. Just for fun. Just to be goofy. Until August got his driver's license. Lex never learned to drive because she was afraid of cars. They hitchhiked to San Francisco and zoomed all over the city via cable cars and taxis. Alexa causing scenes, leaping into fountains, and singing "What Does the Fox Say" at the top of her lungs in the lobbies of all the exclusive hotels. August trailing behind, handing out money with his apologies, smoothing it over. She wasn't hurting anybody. Not when she was with him.